Your brain is broken, and it's not your fault. Think about what happened yesterday. You sat down to study, or work, or do literally anything that mattered. You told yourself this time would be different. This time you'd actually get through it. And then your phone buzzed. Or maybe it didn't even buzz. Maybe you just picked it up out of habit. Maybe you told yourself you'd check for 1 second, and then you looked up and 40 minutes were gone. Just gone. Evaporated. And you were left sitting there with this heavy, familiar guilt sitting in your chest, wondering what is wrong with you. Here's what I need you to hear right now. Nothing is wrong with you. Absolutely nothing. Because here's the thing, and this is a statistic that genuinely stopped me cold when I first read it. The average person today loses over 2.5 hours every single day to fragmented, distracted, low-quality mental activity. Not because they're lazy, not because they lack discipline or intelligence, but because the entire digital world around them has been engineered by some of the smartest people alive, people whose entire job is to make sure you can't stop scrolling, can't stop checking, can't stop going back. You are not fighting your own weakness. You are fighting billion-dollar companies whose business model depends on keeping your attention fractured. So stay with me. Because by the time this video ends, you are going to understand exactly why your focus has been slipping, and more importantly, you're going to walk away with a real, concrete, science-backed system for rebuilding it. Not motivation, not hype, a system. One that works even if you've tried everything before and failed. Let's talk about the real villain here, because it isn't you. Every single app on your phone, every notification, every red badge, every infinite scroll was designed by teams of engineers and behavioral psychologists who study human attention the same way a fisherman studies fish. They know exactly what makes your brain release dopamine. They know exactly how long a pause to create before showing you the next piece of content. They know that unpredictable rewards, like slot machines, are more addictive than predictable ones. This is not speculation. This is documented design philosophy. Former insiders at these companies have come out publicly and said it plainly. They were building products to maximize the amount of time you spend inside them, regardless of whether that time made your life better. And then we, you and me, grew up inside this ecosystem. We were handed smartphones as teenagers. We were trained slowly and systematically to need constant stimulation, to feel uncomfortable in silence, to feel anxious when we're not checking. None of us signed up for that. It just happened to us. The system conditioned you, and then it handed you the bill and called it a lack of willpower. But here is the good news. Real good news, not YouTube good news. The ability to focus deeply is a skill. It is a learnable, trainable, improvable skill. It is not a personality trait you either have or don't have. It is not something certain people are born with while others are left behind. Think about this. You once didn't know how to drive a car. You were terrible at it. You checked your mirrors wrong. You braked too hard. You had to consciously think about every single movement. And now you can do it while listening to music and having a full conversation. Your brain adapted. It built the neural pathways for that skill through practice and repetition. Focus works exactly the same way. You've just been doing the opposite of practicing it. Every time you've reached for your phone out of boredom, you've been training your brain to crave distraction. But everything that can be trained in one direction can be trained in the other direction. That's not motivational talk. That's neuroscience. The book I'm going to walk you through today is Deep Work by Newport. Newport is a computer science professor at Georgetown University, and he has spent years studying how the world's highest performers think, work, and protect their time. This book was a turning point for me personally. I'll tell you exactly how in a few minutes. But first, let's get into the meat of it, because there is a lot here. The first idea that Newport builds his entire framework on is this. Deep work is becoming both increasingly rare and increasingly valuable. Those two things are happening simultaneously. As the world gets noisier and more distracted, the ability to focus for long stretches and produce genuinely valuable, complex work is disappearing from the workforce. but the economy is simultaneously rewarding it more than ever. This means that if you can develop this skill while everyone else is losing it, you are not just improving your productivity. You are acquiring what Newport calls a superpower, the ability to do in a few hours what takes most people an entire week. Think about what that means for your career. Think about what that means for your studies, your creative work, your ability to actually move forward in life. The gap between people who can focus and people who cannot is going to define the winners and losers of the next 30 years. That's not dramatic. That's where the economy is heading. So what does deep work actually mean? Newport defines it as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their limit. The opposite of deep work is what Newport calls shallow work. The emails, the texts, the quick meetings, the endless task switching that feels productive but produces almost no lasting value. Here's the brutal truth. Most of us spend the majority of our working hours doing shallow work. We are busy all day and wonder why nothing meaningful gets done. We feel exhausted at night without being able to point to a single thing we built, created, or genuinely advanced. That exhaustion isn't from working hard. It's from working in a way that produces cognitive fatigue without cognitive output. The practical action here, right now, today, pull out a piece of paper or open your notes app and write down 2 lists. On one side, write your deep work tasks. The things that move your life forward, require real thinking, and produce real results. On the other side, write your shallow tasks, the admin, the responding, the checking. Most people have never actually looked at this ratio. Look at yours. It will probably disturb you. That discomfort is the beginning of change. The second concept Newport introduces is what he calls the attention residue problem, and once you understand this, you will never look at task switching the same way again. Every time you switch from one task to another, part of your attention stays stuck on the previous task. It doesn't come with you. So when you're trying to work on something important and you keep checking your messages, you are never actually fully present in your important work. You are working with half a brain. Researchers at the University of California found that after being interrupted, it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully return to the original task. 23 minutes. And most of us are interrupting ourselves every few minutes, which means most of us are operating in a state of permanent cognitive fragmentation. We never reach the deep end of our mental pool. We're always splashing around in the shallow end. The fix is simpler than you think, and you can do it today. Set a timer for 25 minutes. During those 25 minutes, your phone is face down, notifications are off, and there is exactly one task in front of you. Not 2, not 3, 1. When the timer goes off, take a 5-minute break. Then repeat. This is a modified version of the Pomodoro technique, and it works not because of magic, but because it trains your brain to sustain focus in chunks, gradually extending your tolerance for deep concentration. Start with 25 minutes today, just once. That's your entire assignment from this lesson. Now, here's a concept that hit me personally like a truck: Newport's framework around the any benefit trap. Most of us decide to use a social media platform or a productivity-destroying habit by asking one simple question: does this have any benefit? And since almost anything has some benefit, you might see a funny video, you might learn something random, you might maintain a connection, we say yes and keep using it. But Newport argues this is completely the wrong question. The right question is, does this tool provide substantially more benefit than harm relative to the other things I could be doing with that time? When you ask the question that way, the math changes entirely. Scrolling for 90 minutes might have some value, but if you had spent those 90 minutes reading, building a skill, working on a project, or even resting properly, the opportunity cost is enormous. You are not just losing time, you are losing the compounding growth that comes from using time wisely. Here's what I want you to do with this today. Pick one app on your phone, just one, that you know is mostly wasting your time. Don't delete it, just move it off your home screen. Put it in a folder 3 swipes deep. Add one small barrier between you and the impulse. Studies show that even a 2-second delay in accessing a habit significantly reduces how often you engage with it. Tiny friction creates massive behavioral change over time. Newport then introduces the idea of scheduling your depth, and this completely changed how I structure my days. Most people treat deep work like something they'll do when they find time. They never find time, because shallow work always expands to fill whatever time is available. Newport is explicit about this. You must schedule deep work the same way you would schedule a meeting, a class, or a doctor's appointment. It goes on the calendar first. Everything else works around it. He describes different philosophies for this. Some people, like authors or researchers, go fully monastic and eliminate almost all shallow obligations. Others use a bimodal approach, reserving certain days entirely for deep work. But for most of us in school or in regular jobs, the rhythmic approach works best, showing up at the same time every day for a block of deep work, building it into a ritual so automatic that your brain learns to shift into focus mode the moment you sit down. The ritual is important. Newport talks about how the greatest deep workers in history, Darwin, Freud, Jung, Twain, had extremely consistent routines around their work. Not because they were rigid personalities, but because routine lowers the decision-making overhead of getting started. Decision fatigue is real. Every morning when you have to decide whether to do your important work, you're already spending mental energy you could be spending on the work itself. Automate the decision. Same time, same place, same setup every day. Your brain will start to associate the ritual with focus, and getting into the deep state will become faster and easier over time. Your action today. Look at tomorrow's schedule right now. Find one block, even 30 minutes, and mark it as protected deep work time. Write it down. Tell someone if you have to. Make it real. One of the most counterintuitive ideas in the book is what Newport calls embracing boredom. Most of us have trained our brains to never be bored. The moment there's a gap, a few seconds in an elevator, a minute waiting for food, 10 seconds at a red light, we reach for our phones. And that seems harmless. But what we're actually doing is depriving our brains of the downtime they need to consolidate learning, process emotions, generate creative connections, and strengthen the default mode network. There's genuine science behind this. The brain does some of its most important work when you're not actively doing anything. Shower thoughts are real. They happen because your relaxed, unstimulated mind is free to make the creative associations that focused attention prevents. Every time you fill that gap with a scroll, you're blocking that process. You are literally making yourself less creative, less emotionally regulated, and less capable of deep thinking by refusing to let yourself be bored. The practice here is simple and deeply uncomfortable at first. Once a day, do nothing for 5 minutes. Literally nothing. No phone, no music, no podcast, no book. Sit with your thoughts. It will feel strange. Stick with it. This is the practice Newport calls productive meditation, using idle time to think through a problem rather than filling it with distraction. Try it today on your next commute, your next walk, your next meal alone. Newport dedicates significant attention to something he calls the grand gesture, the idea that sometimes the way to signal to your brain that something is deeply important is to make a dramatic commitment to it. He tells the story of J.K. Rowling, who, when she was struggling to finish the last Harry Potter book, checked herself into a 5-star Edinburgh hotel and didn't leave until it was done. Not because she needed luxury, but because the dramatic shift in environment sent an unmistakable signal to her brain. This work is serious. The investment, financial, logistical, psychological, raised the stakes in a way that cut through every distraction. You don't need a hotel, but the principle is real. The grand gesture could be waking up 2 hours earlier than everyone in your house so the morning is completely silent and yours. It could be going to a library and leaving your earphones at home. It could be turning your phone off completely, not silent, not face down, off for 2 hours. The signal you send to your brain about the seriousness of your work matters. Take the biggest, most focused task you have right now and make one dramatic commitment to it today. Block time, remove every tool of distraction, and go all in for even 1 hour. See what happens. Let me tell you about a real person whose life changed through this framework. Adam Markle was a former trial attorney who was burning out completely, working 18-hour days, constantly reactive, always overwhelmed. His work was technically intensive, but always fragmented. Calls, interruptions, constant multitasking. He started experimenting with deep work principles almost by accident, blocking 2 hours every morning where he would not check email, would not take calls, and would work on only one high-stakes project. The results showed up fast. Within 6 weeks, his output on complex legal briefs had roughly doubled. His clients noticed. His stress levels dropped. He ended up leaving law, becoming a speaker and author, and built a career precisely because he had developed the rare ability to produce high-quality intellectual work at a consistent pace. He wasn't more talented than his colleagues. He had learned to think in a way they hadn't. That's you. Not 6 months from now, not after some imaginary transformation. You, with the brain you already have, with the life you're already living. The only difference between the version of you that feels stuck right now and the version of you that actually moves forward is whether you give your mind the conditions it needs to do its best work. Here is your challenge. Right now, today. Not tomorrow, not after this video, not after the weekend. Today. Set a 25-minute timer, put your phone in another room, open whatever the most important task in your life is right now. A paper, a project, a skill you've been trying to build, and work on just that one thing until the timer goes off. No switching, no checking, no giving yourself permission to do anything else. Just 25 minutes of your full, undivided, actual mind applied to one thing that matters. When the timer goes off, notice how you feel. Not drained, not exhausted. Probably clearer than you felt in days. That feeling is your brain remembering what it was built to do. Now close your eyes for a second. Actually, don't close your eyes. Keep watching. But picture this. 6 months from now, you've made this a daily practice. You're doing 2-3 focused hours every morning before the noise of the day starts. Your work is sharper. Your ideas are clearer. You're actually finishing things. Projects you've been meaning to start, skills you've been meaning to build, goals that have lived in your head as someday for years. And because you've done real, valuable, concentrated work, you've started to move forward in ways that other people around you haven't. Your professors notice, your boss notices, your own confidence, the kind that comes not from motivation, but from evidence that you can actually execute, starts to change how you carry yourself. You're not waiting for focus to arrive. You've built it. And it's not just the career side. It's your relationships. When you're not always half present, always half distracted, always mentally elsewhere, when you're actually in the room with people you love, the quality of those connections changes. Your conversations go deeper. You actually hear what people are saying. You stop feeling that low-level anxiety that comes from always being partially somewhere else. And inside, there's a quietness, not emptiness, but actual peace that comes from knowing you gave your real attention to what actually matters today. That future is not some fantasy. It is the mathematically logical outcome of doing what you now know how to do. Here's the last thing I want to leave you with. You are not broken. You were never broken. You were handed a world specifically designed to make focus impossible. And the fact that you're still here, still trying, still watching something like this and hoping for something better, that tells me everything I need to know about you. You have the capacity for this. It is already in you. What has been missing is not ability. What has been missing is direction. Cal Newport didn't write a book about exceptional people. He wrote a book about a skill available to any person willing to practice it. And you have just spent the last several minutes learning more about that skill than most people will ever take the time to understand. The only move now is to act. If this video connected with something real in you, if any part of it made you feel seen or finally explained something you've been experiencing, share it with one person who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more of this, and leave a comment telling me, what is the one thing you are going to apply deep work to starting today? I read every single one. You are capable. The work is waiting. Now go do it.